8 nodal officers joined in. Meena, can you please confirm that all our participants have joined in?
Ma'am, it's a webinar mode which is
Currently,
going
there is
on.
1.8K people joining.
Yes, please. You can just start, ma'am. You're on a webinar mode, so they are able to hear you, but you won't be able to see them. You can just note down from the participants below.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. During the National Birth Defect Awareness Month, we shall be hosting a series of webinars spread throughout the month. On behalf of RBSK, I welcome you all for this first online webinar in this series. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed speaker, Dr. Anil Agarwal, sir, Head, Department of Pediatric Orthopedic, Chacha Nehru Bal Chikitsa, New Delhi. Sir shall be speaking on early detection and management of developmental dysplasia of hip. All our participants are requested. They can post their questions in the chat box and we shall try to accommodate them at the end of the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. And I welcome the participants to this amazing awareness month, which has started on 1st March. Addition to it's not a new addition, but we have now this for quite some time, but we are now creating more awareness on the DDH thing. Okay, so welcome you all. And here we start. Is the screen visible?
It's visible.
Is it full screen?
Sir, no, it's not full screen. Maybe you would want to full screen it, please.
Just a minute. Yeah, is it full screen now?
Yes, sir, much better. Maybe you would want to start. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. These slides, I am Dr. Anil Agarwal. I am a specialist orthopedics. I am working in the Department of Orthopedics, Pediatric Orthopedics at Chacha Nehru Bal Chikitsalaya, Delhi. It's a pediatric super specialty hospital under government of NCT of Delhi. These slides which you will be viewing are contributed by my senior colleague and past president POSI, Dr. Dhiren Ganjwala. So let me take you through the DDH and what we need to know about this. Okay, so broadly, DDH stands for development dysplasia of hip. And if we translate in Hindi, it simply means kula apne sthan pe nahi hai. Okay. Now, points which we will discuss is first, why early detection of DDH is crucial. How can we detect the pathology early? What are the challenges? And how do we overcome them? Okay, so let me first highlight the importance of normal hip joint. So you can see this child sitting cross-legged and squatting, and this is a routine for many of us. Basically, almost 97 or 98% of us would like to sit and squat in this manner for our routine activities. And for this purpose, a good hip joint is necessary. We also need a sound hip for running, playing around, and participation in various sports like judo, gymnast, okay, and various other activities, and even for going to school, simply going to school on a bicycle. So it is to be understood that hips which are stable and have full pain-free range of motion are important part of our daily life. Okay, you cannot walk normally without a sound hip. But unfortunately, this privilege of sound hip is not available to every child born. So I'll give you few examples. Okay, case 1. So this particular child was observed by a primary health care provider to having a decreased abduction of the hip, and the child was referred to ortho. he suspected a development dysplasia of hip. The pathology was confirmed with a ultrasound, and this is how the child was treated. Okay, this is known as Pavlik harness. And following the treatment, the brace was advised for 6 weeks full time. At 6 weeks, when the hip was relatively stable, the hours the brace was off was increased. Total duration of brace use was 12 weeks, and the child did not require any anesthesia, and no surgery was required in this child. No hospital admissions was necessary, just on outpatient basis, the child was managed. And this is the child at 8 years. And this is the same child which I showed you in the previous slide, doing all his normal activities and routine functions without any trouble. Okay. So how is the result? Excellent. How much discomfort was to the child? Minimal. How much inconvenience to the family? Few visits to the outpatient department, and the cost of the harness. And the cost, if you see, this is the rate given in the RBSK list. It's around 1,000 rupees. And I searched the Amazon network today morning itself, and it lists the price for this abduction brace as around 600 to 700 rupees, depending upon the various sites. So it's not a very costly device. Okay, so let's now go to case 2. This is a bigger child, okay, 5.5 years old child. Okay, you can see that the hip is out over here. You can see this, okay. Right hip is out, the other hip is contained, and this is the diagrammatic representation of the same. Okay, so you can see that hip is out, and I like to explain what steps. Now this child requires surgery, and when we do surgery, we must understand why we need to do extensive surgery. With time, the tissues get contracted like this. Okay, so what we have to do is that to bring the hip down, we have to cut some portion of the bone. Okay, otherwise with this thighs tissue, the hip will go out like this, and there will be increased pressure on the head. Okay, you cannot fix something which is very tight. It has to be loosened out. Okay, after cutting the bone, it has to be fixed with a plate. Okay, and subsequently you can see that it doesn't have a good coverage over here. You can see it's well covered over here. So to prevent its redislocation, we have to form a roof as well, which is known as acetabular procedure. So you have to fix bone to bring to form a normal roof for the head. Okay, and this is the spica which is required after the surgery, and this has to be in place for 3 months. Okay, so this is the end result of the procedure. You see a big plate is over there, a acetabular procedure is over there. When we come to the outcome, okay, this procedure is technically demanding. So even in my hands, who are doing these things day and night, it takes me around 3 hours to do this surgery, which includes blood loss. It requires a plate. The plaster is required for 3 months, and intermediate changes of the plaster are required. So they also cost something. Post removal of plaster, the child requires a rehabilitation for nearly 2 to 3 months. And cost wise, let's look at the RBSK rates. So for a complete procedure, it is mentioned about 60,000 rupees. And if the treatment is taken in a private hospital, that cost rises several times. Okay, let's recapitulate what we have done for the conservative management. How much discomfort to the child? The child has undergone a GA surgery, a incision, a plate which will require a subsequent removal, a 3-month spica, and minimum 3 months of rehabilitation period. So the child will not be well for 6 months. inconvenience to the family. Beside cost, it will the child has to be kept and served in a spica, and there are chances, and there is a question which is always raised: does the child become normal after surgery? Let's see. So this is the child with bilateral dislocation of hip, okay? And this is her at 18 years of age. She is a dancer, professional dancer now. She can do her task nicely, you can see. And this is her hip condition, okay? You can see that despite a surgery, this head has not got that round shape which is so much desirable of a good range of motion of hip, but still she is able to do her normal functions. But are all children fortunate? All children receiving such surgery fortunate? Let's find out. Yes, it is possible for most of the children, but there are cases like this one, operated at age 2 years. Okay, surgery done on both sides, and the surgeries were spaced apart 2 years, and this is the outcome at 8 years. Okay, and this is, you can see that the head on the roof on the right side is not good, and the hip is slightly out on this side. At 16 years follow-up, the same child had rest while playing and even during when the child was at rest. And this is the outcome at 16 years. You can see that the head on the right side is partially subluxated. It's not exactly in. The roof does not cover the head properly. On the left side, the head is small in size, and there is difference of length in the limbs. This limb is high, so the limb is short on the right side. Okay, so the results are not that good. You can see by the arrow that this side is not good. So not all hips will become normal after surgery. The points I want to emphasize from explaining these cases is that early detected cases need simple treatment, better results, and late presenting cases will require major surgery, and not all will have good come. So that these slides, these cases illustrate the need for early detection of hip dysplasias. Okay. Understood why do we need to detect cases, why we do not want the children to come after walking age or late present. It's not that we cannot treat them, but the results are not so good. What is the magnitude of problem? How many cases of DDH do we see in our practice? Okay, let's find out how many children are born. So every year, about 2.5 crore babies are born. The DDH rate is 1 per 1,000 live birth. This is estimate which has come from global studies. And so there will be around 25,000 cases of DDH per year. Now, how do we reduce the incidence of DDH? Okay, so some hips will come dislocated and some hips become abnormal after the child is born. I'll tell you the reasons later on. Okay, so this is one practice which is commonly done in the rural areas and also in the urban areas. It is known as wrapping the child, or commonly known as swaddling. Okay, so what we usually do, the mothers, what we usually do is that they hold the leg straight and they tie the knot around the leg portion, which results in adduction of the hip and thereby putting the hips at risk. Okay, the child cannot move the limbs apart, and it is considered a good practice in certain traditions and religions that tying this way help development of the child. So this is the incorrect method of swaddling. The correct method of swaddling is to keep the hips in abduction and flex position so that the hips remain content and the child is free to move the hips. So I'll show you a video if it works. Okay, so this is the correct method of swaddling. Just see. Swaddling per se is not bad, but to do it in a proper manner is essential.
Wrap over the baby's chest and over the arm and tuck under the left side of the baby. It's important to leave room for the legs to move. Bring the bottom corner up, twist and tuck under the baby. Make sure the hips can move up and out.
Okay, so you can see that the hips are kept abducted and the child is able to move them. They are not tied in straight position, nor they are adducted. Okay, so correct swaddling will prevent the hip becoming unstable. Okay, so you must be aware of the correct method of swaddling. Okay, so I'm so thankful that development dysplasia was taken up as RBSK and awareness program is launched to create awareness in the caregivers as well as public for the developmental dysplasia of hip. And it has been shown in the poster as well, the IEC material which was released very recently, that not to adduct the limbs closely, but to keep them apart either in this manner if the child is taken from the front side or by the side of the mother, and these two are the correct. The limbs should be apart. Okay, the way you like to hold the child is your preference, but the limbs should be kept apart for proper development of the hip. Now we come to why DDH is so important, why there is a spectrum of DDH. Okay, so we are aware that this old good Maruti is there, and this is also known as car, and one Mercedes model is also available, which is very costly. So all are different versions of the car. So we can say there is a spectrum of cars ranging from a simple car which is less costly to a extremely costly car which is said to have more comfort. Similarly, DDH also has got a spectrum. In previous times, several decades ago, the DDH was named as congenital dislocation of hip because we thought that the hip coming out of the joint is the only manifestation. Now we understand that there can be several manifestations of DDH. So it is now called developmental dysplasia of hip. I'll give you some examples. So this is a normal hip which is well contained in the acetabulum. This is the round shaped head. Okay, so we see the next degree of severity. The head is still in the acetabulum, but the acetabulum is not round. It is somewhat hollow. So this variety of DDH is known as acetabular dysplasia. Okay, now the hip is not exactly in and not exactly completely out. It has tendency to go out in certain positions. So this is subluxating. Other varieties are dislocating. That means the hip is now come far from the acetabular joint. Now there is a condition in which hip has come out, but you can always reduce the hip back into the socket. That is reducible. And the last variety is that hip has moved out of the joint and you cannot bring it back by conservative means. Okay, so you have several things under the spectrum of DDH, and we need to, the treatment for each of them is slightly different, but we need to understand what is the correct pathology. This is the most severe variety. Okay, the previous one was the most simplest one. This one was the most simplest one. Okay. Okay, now we want to understand what is the fate of DDH cases. Okay, so we have just calculated that there are around 25,000 cases of DDH, approximate cases of DDH per year. So let's group them: early detection and late detection. So how many come for early detection? How many do we detect late? And what is the ratio? So there are no population studies on DDH right away and none from India, but a gross estimate plays that the early detected cases are approximately 40% of the total DDH load. Okay, and they can be offered non-surgical treatment, and the late detected form almost 60 to 70% of the cases of DDH. Okay, so they will require surgical treatment. So our aim is to increase this green portion to 100%, so that no child should be subjected to surgery in long term. This is our wish, and this we want to achieve in the coming years. Okay, and how do we achieve this? So by early detection is the key. And how do we early detect them? So the factors which we take into account is the risk factors, clinical examination of the child, and the imaging. Okay, so first for the risk factors. Okay, it has been shown in the studies that DDH is more common in first child, female child, breech deliveries, when the fluid during the pregnancy is less, that is oligohydramnios. Torticollis is a disorder of the neck in which one side of the neck is tilted towards one side. And when the child has associated foot problems like club foot or vertical talus. Okay, so this is also known as packaging disorders. Okay, so DDH has been shown to be more common in these conditions. And if there is a previous child with DDH. Okay, so what does risk factors, what do you understand by risk factors? Does it occur only in children with these conditions? The answer is no. DDH can occur beyond these conditions also. Okay, and can DDH occur when these factors are absent? The answer is yes. Okay, so you can suspect the possibility of DDH when these risk factors are present, but DDH can occur without these risk factors also. So if we place all cases of DDH and this is the risk factor present, then there will be certain cases which occur without risk factor being present, but in a large majority of them, risk factors are present. So the importance of risk factors. Okay, so this is the graph which depicts that some cases can occur without risk factors. Okay, so if we say that bring the child only when risk factor is present, then we are misleading the community, and we need to basically keep our clinical methods and our tactics alert to detect those children also which do not have risk factors. Now, POSI launched the DDH Careway pathway in year 2021, and after careful review of literature, it has pointed out that these factors are the most important of all the risk factors which I have already shown. So family history of DDH is important, the breech presentation is important, improper swaddling practice is important, and history of if the hip has been found unstable on a previous clinical examination. So these 4 risk factors are not being distinctly highlighted in the care pathway, that if the child has these factors, then you must subject the child to further evaluation. Okay, so our recently launched, what will you tell the patient? Okay, how will the mothers or the fathers of the DDH child suspect that their child is requires further evaluation? Then these are some gross indicators. The screen creases might be extra on the thigh, but this is not generally picked up and very non-specific because the fat pads sometimes give rise to this appearance. Okay, there will be limited abduction on the side where the hip is dislocated. Another common sign which is which might raise suspicion is that the one limb is short. If the limbs are placed in this manner, then one of the limb might be shorter, and that the hip is bilaterally dislocated, then the hip is out. Okay, the hip is broadly out. Now we go for clinical examinations. What are the clinical examinations? Okay, related to DDH. So first is, these signs can also be picked by the clinicians. Okay, so this is one sign which I've already shown you, and this is also picked up by when the primary worker sees the child. So there are extra creases you can see. You can see there are extra folds on the thigh. Next is another way of depicting. Then broadening of the perineum if the both hips are dislocated. Now there are two tests, Ortolani and Barlow's, which are very specific for detecting the DDH in a neonate. And this I will show you slightly later. Okay. What is Ortolani test? Ortolani test is, try to understand things, I'll explain them again. And this is meant to be practiced and learned before you can apply them in daily practice. I understand that in audience, not all are medical professionals, but for those who can use this test, it's a useful tool to detect DDH very early in the, it's a neonate or 3 months of age. Okay, what is Ortolani? Ortolani says that the hip is out and you want to bring the hip in. So what you will do is that the hips are initially kept in the center, okay, and you then move the hips outside, and with this hand you try to push the dislocated hip inside the socket. Okay, and if you can reduce the hip, that means the hip was initially dislocated. So Ortolani means a test for a out hip. Okay, the O stand for a out hip. It is not, if the hip is already inside, then this test will not be positive. So O stands for a out hip, and I'll explain this again and show a video as well. Okay. I'll wait for, just wait for a few minutes. Okay. The next test is the Barlow test. Okay. It is the opposite of Ortolani test. It means the hip is basically in, and with the pressure, you are dislocating the hip. It is not to be repeated multiple times because it has propensity to damage the hip. So should be done only by those clinicians or by those workers who are already familiar with this test. Don't do this test repeatedly. Okay. So this again I will be showing to you in a video. Okay. Basically what happens is that you keep, initially the hip is in. When you bring the head limbs closer towards the center and apply downward pressure, because the hip is not stable, it comes out. Okay, so this is Barlow's test. Okay, limitation of abduction, you test in this manner. You keep the hips in 90-degree flexed, knee 90-degree flexed, and then you try to abduct it on the side where the hip is dislocated. The abduction will be restricted. Another test which I've already mentioned you is the Gallagher test or Alice test. How do you do it? You keep the hip 90-degree flexed and the knee as 90-degree flexed. When you place the ankles together, you will find that the hip, the side on which the hip is dislocated, is lower in height. Okay, it can be appreciated either from the side or from the top. Okay. You can also demonstrate the test in this manner. Okay, you can raise the hip to 90 degrees and knee to 90 degrees, you can see that the side on which the hip is dislocated is at the lower level. Okay. Another test which is also used in practice is the telescoping test. And how do we do it? You can see that the hip is out. When you try to push this hip in longitudinal direction, because there is a roof over here, you cannot push the hip beyond this roof. Okay, so there will be a bony hard feeling when you push the normal hip. But on the side of DDH, when you try to push the hip up, there is no support over it. So the hip will move slightly upwards and there is a feeling of giving way. Okay. There is no bony restriction to the pushing. Okay. So this is known as telescoping. Okay. So this is done and demonstrated in this manner. Okay, you keep one hand over the pelvis, other hand over the trochanter, and with the other hand, you try to push and pull the thigh. So in case of dislocated hip, the pressure transmitted by this other hand will be felt on the fingers. Okay, when the child is walking, other problems can be seen like this. I'll show. I hope this video works. Okay. Okay, you can see that the child is happy playing, and so DDH is not detected early. But see when the child walks, see the limp on one side. Some people mistake it as for normal walk during the childhood, but if you have watch closely, then there is sway to one side. Just see on the right side. Okay. And so other manifestations of DDH when the child starts walking is the shortening of the limb. You can say that the pelvis is squared only when we place this block inside the feet portion, and the height is compensated. This limb is short. When both hips are dislocated, to balance the spine, the child has to lean forwards. You see that both hips are dislocated. So the child has to lean forwards and there is slight increase in the lumbar curvature, which is known as hyperlordosis. Let's see this child walk. Okay. This is. I think its video is not useful. I'll show you in the video. Okay, so many tests I have shown. Okay, which test we should be using in our day-to-day practice? Okay, and how frequently? So this is the list. This is the list of the test which has shown high validity in the studies. So I name them. This is Ortolani, Barlow's, hip abduction, Galeaggi, limb length discrepancy, and limp while walking. If you see carefully, these four are positive before walking age. These are done before the child is walking, and the lower four are basically positive when the child has already started walking. So Ortolani and Barlow will not be positive beyond 3 months. Okay, so what does the program say? Okay, what does this program say? Okay, so it says that you screen the child at every opportunity. That means at birth, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 14 weeks, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, and 18 months. Why so many examinations? Why so many examinations? Why? And why do we require so frequent screening? Okay, so if you have noticed carefully, several of these checkpoints were at that periods when the child gets the immunization. Okay, so we must not lose the opportunity to examine the hips when the child has come for immunization or vaccination. Okay, so and why do we need to do it so times? Suppose we miss it one time, okay, but we do not want to miss it repeatedly. Okay, so the importance of seeing the child again and again and again. Okay, and what are other points in the favor? That you cannot be sure that if you have done the test one time, you are doing it correctly and the reliability is not 100%. Also, there are circumstances when the child was normal at preliminary visit, but due to swaddling practice or other reasons, the dysplasia has developed later, and you have labeled the child has not got DDH, and later the child develops DDH. Okay. Now, there is a term known as screening and there is a term known as surveillance. Okay, what is the difference between screening and surveillance? I'd like to give some examples. We have Indian Army patrolling our borders and they do it in a daily manner. Okay, they are not aware whether there will be any confrontation or any attack from the neighboring country. Okay, they are always prepared. So this is the surveillance. Okay, another examples, you have given a patient, a cancer patient, chemotherapy. Okay, and you want to now monitor the blood count serially to see whether the counts are going down. Okay, so surveillance is routine monitoring of any procedure, whereas screening is done for very specific reason. Like you have fever, like 2 or 3 years back when the COVID was more prevalent, you have fever, then you are asked to get a COVID test. Okay, that was screening. Okay, but we did not do a routine test for COVID every week. Okay, this is the difference between screening and surveillance. So what do you want to do for DDH? We want to do a screening or we want to do a surveillance? We want to do a surveillance. We need to see that all children develop a normal hip. Okay. Surveillance, if you see carefully, surveillance has screening including in it. It's a broader term. It's a smaller term. Okay, now for the imaging, the options available are X-rays, sonography. Okay, so what are the limitations of the X-ray? This is one X-ray at 3.5 months. Okay, can you see anything abnormal in these X-rays? Okay. We cannot appreciate because the head of the femur does not develop before 3.5 months, and therefore this X-ray obtained before 3.5 months of child age is very difficult to interpret and label as DDH. Okay, so the approximate position of head is over there, and you can see on one side, right side, the hip is out. But this is very difficult to interpret in a child who is less than 3.5 months of age. What is the better method in earlier age group? So ultrasound with a linear probe is required in such cases. What are the indications of, what are the basically requirements of ultrasound? It requires a high frequency probe because the bone has to be screened. You require a trained person. It is expensive equipment and it sometimes leads to overdiagnosis, and if the operator is not trained, it can lead to over-treatment. You say DDH is present, you prescribe the child RNS, okay, whereas things could be managed just by observation. Okay, so how do we decide which imaging is the best for a particular age of the child? So I draw a graph which we used to draw in our at school days. So this is the child at birth. This is 14 weeks, which is also 3.5 months. This is 6 months and 1 year. So up to 6 months, ultrasound is a good modality. Beyond 3.5 months, X-rays are useful. Okay. So what does Indian DDH Careway pathway says? And the details are available at www.posi.in. So what exactly is this pathway? This says that it incorporates all the features of awareness, evidence, consensus, and implementation. That means it is broad-based, that we know that India is a very diverse country where both private practices is also there. There is government setup, there is primary health care, there are tertiary care centers, there are orthopedic surgeons, and there are pediatric orthopedic surgeons. Even gynecologists are seeing, and in some centers, pediatricians are all there. So this guideline incorporates the evidence from and the practices which these all are following, incorporates all these in one pathway. It was developed by Indian practitioners and therefore very much applicable to our circumstances. We have not taken these guidelines from any UK or USA guidelines. Okay. The focus is on surveillance. I've already explained to you the difference between the surveillance and screening, and therefore it emphasized that the child is checked at every opportunity rather than sending the child for clinical examination when there is a doubt. It is aligned with the national immunization schedule and so many checkpoints. You have seen that we need to see the child at all 9 occasions, and there are age-specific tests which have been defined for the babies less than 14 weeks, 14 weeks to 6 months, or when the child is brought beyond 6 months of age, although there is some flexibility which is available. So this is the pathway. It looks bit complex, but I'll explain to you bit by bit, so it will not seem very difficult to understand. So first, the age groups. So there are broadly these age groups: less than 6 weeks, 6 weeks to 14 weeks. Why 14 weeks? Because beyond this, the imaging method changes. Then there is 6 weeks to 6 months. Why 6 months? Beyond 6 months, the conservative methods of dealing with DDH no longer work, and then there is a entity beyond 6 months of age. So you can understand why these guidelines are there. Okay, why these age groups have been formed. So let's take an example of a 7-week child. Okay, so what test should we use, and what imaging shall we use? Okay, so this child comes under the bracket of 6 weeks to 14 weeks. The clinical test applicable at this age would be Barlow's, Ortolani, limb-length discrepancy, and decrease in the abduction. The child would not have been walking at this age, and no limp will be there. So now you go for the examination. Okay, first the normal examination. Let's look back to the risk factors. Okay, so if they are absent, the child needs to just continue to do routine activities and brought back to the surveillance at the scheduled visits. If now some of the risk factors are present, then the child needs a imaging. We have already seen this graph. Okay, the 7 weeks child will be around here. Okay, so at this time, the X-rays are not useful and ultrasound is required. So by these guidelines, we now clearly understand which tests are useful, which imaging is useful, which risk factors we have to find out. Okay, now ultrasound may not be available at several centers. So what to do if ultrasound is available and when it is not available? If it is available, go for it. Then there can be 2 circumstances, either the ultrasound is normal. If the ultrasound is normal, we need to go back to the surveillance. If the ultrasound is abnormal, then a specialist opinion requires to be taken. Suppose the ultrasound is not available, then the earliest modality which is available is obtaining a X-ray at 14 weeks. Okay, still the child can be managed conservatively. Okay, even at this age group. But when ideal is ultrasound not available, wait till 14 weeks, and by that time X-ray will be positive. Okay, clinical examination, again the same thing. If the clinical examination is abnormal, the child requires a detailed examination by ortho. Okay, so I would like to summarize when a referral to an ortho surgeon is required. If your clinical examination is abnormal, if the imaging is abnormal, okay, so let's summarize things. Let's try to understand things in a simple manner. Okay, so we have one scenario when the risk factor are negative and the clinical examination is normal. What we need to do, that we need to continue to screen the child at each visit at Well Baby clinics. Okay. Now, some of the risk factors are present, but the clinical examination is normal because these risk factors are very specific. We need to investigate the child further and get satisfied that the child is not having anything abnormal. So we need to go for imaging. Risk factor absent, but the clinical examination is abnormal. You need to have a specialist opinion. And again, if risk factors are present and the clinical examination is abnormal, a referral to a specialist is required. Okay, so these are the sum up of the total pathway. Let me give you a few case examples now. So this was a twin child. One child was breech, so the risk factor was present. Clinical examination was normal. Because of risk factor, the child was subjected to ultrasound, and this is the ultrasound. So I'm not expert at ultrasound, but I like to show you something. So on a ultrasound, okay, this is the bony section. This is the soft section or soft tissue shadow. The broader is the soft tissue shadow. That means the hip is more out. So on the right side, half of the hip was more on the soft tissue side. That means it was out. Okay. But on the left side, both the hip was well on the bony side as well as on the soft tissue side. Okay, so left hip was okay, but right hip was somewhat suspicious, not exactly out, but somewhat suspicious. Okay, so what was done? Okay, surveillance was continued. The child was again seen at the next visit, but the parents were cautioned regarding the abnormal practices or keeping the hip wide. And X-rays, when the child was slightly older, X-rays were obtained and they were found to be normal. So a normal hip developed in this man. Okay. So this is how simple management was possible. Okay. So what do we expect from hip surveillance? What are the advantages of this hip surveillance? Okay. So let's recapitulate what we have just heard and seen. So up to 6 months of age, conservative means by abduction spleen, that is pelvic harness works. Beyond 6 months of age, we have options of closed reduction, open reduction with femoral shortening. Femoral shortening we need to remove a piece of bone, and open reduction, femoral shortening, and forming a roof, that is acetabular osteotomy. All this requires GA and surgery. So the safest way out is the treatment within the 6 months. All this will require some kind of GA or surgery and putting the child in a hip spica. Okay. So with proper hip surveillance, if we can achieve this, these are not required, or this will not be required, and the child will have a normal developed hip by simple conservative means. Okay. I like to bring certain points as well now. Okay. What are the challenges? What are the downfalls we are currently facing? Okay. So DDH is a very unique condition. Okay. It is not visible externally. Okay. So the child is not aware whether the family is not aware whether the child is having a pathology inside the body. Okay. Who can suspect is the primary caregiver can suspect it, or the pediatrician or the obstetrician who first sees the child can suspect it. Okay. The confirmation is often required by either ultrasound or X-ray, so a radiologist will be required, and the treatment is provided by an orthosurgeon. So it's a teamwork which is required for DDH management. How DDH is different from clubfoot? We have seen that clubfoot now awareness is so much about clubfoot, and the program for clubfoot is so well advanced, and we have now clubfoot clinics in several districts of India. How is clubfoot different from DDH? So these are the points. It is a deformity visible at birth. So even the parents can pick it up, the pediatrician can pick it up, the obstetrician can pick it up, the primary healthcare worker can pick it up, but same conditions do not apply for DDH. The diagnosis is so evident. Okay. Confirmation with ultrasound or X-ray is not required, and the treatment is offered by only 1% without requirement for any other help, that is by orthopedic surgeon. So that's why the clubfoot has now we see very small children with clubfoot in our clinics, but DDH still we face challenges, and the child is brought only when the child is walking. Okay. So the challenges to summarize is that the incidence is almost similar to clubfoot, that is 1 in 1,000. The condition is not painful, so not picked up. It is not visible externally. The use of risk factor and clinical examination can help in the diagnosis, but this is like picking up from this big heap of children, you have to pick up DDH cases and manage them. So we need to screen all children to pick a few with a dark color. What is the way out? Okay. So educate for proper swaddling method, and by method of this webinar or this awareness month, we have already started doing this, and this is a good initiative by RBSK. Training at all levels is required. One must understand what exactly DDH is, what are the challenges associated with, what are the modalities available for treatment, and how do we manage them. DDH detected should be timely referred. Okay. The moment you suspected that there is some possibility of DDH, do evaluate the child fully or reevaluate the child at the next visit. Don't just leave the child, come back at 6 months. We'll see you at that time. Don't do like that. Okay. Quality muscular ultrasound is required, but it is a costly equipment. Trained manpower is required, and expertise to do ultrasound, musculoskeletal ultrasound is also a challenge, and regular follow-up of these children is also required. Okay. And of course, will not deny treatment to those detected later, but the aim is to treat them conservatively. Okay. Let me share with you some positive thoughts. This was a common sight a few decades back, but we have eradicated polio from our country, and we don't see these cases. This seems like a challenge similar to DDH, but we have overcome this, and with simple method of using polio drops. Okay, so a simple method using the drops, and this goes away. And we have also reached the moon step by step. if we have thought of this a few years back, this seemed impossible, but India has achieved this. So we hope the same for DDH. So let's join hand together to basically create awareness for DDH and detect it earlier. And this is where we end. Okay, I like to share the videos of Barlow's. Just a minute, man. Okay, so let me start again. Okay. Okay, so this is the Barlow's test.
अनिल
Okay.
सर, अनिल
Yeah,
सर, हमारी बहुत सारी एमएसटीज भी साथ में जुड़ी हुई हैं, तो आपसे एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप थोड़ा सा हिंदी में भी बात कर पाएंगे उनके लिए।
जी मैं समझा देता हूँ।
जी, थैंक यू सर।
ओके, ठीक है। आपको मैंने 2 टेस्ट की बात की थी, बार्लोज और ओर्टिलानी। ठीक है, बार्लोज टेस्ट के अंदर हिप जो कूला है वो पहले से आपका अंदर होता है और हम उसको टेस्ट करके देखते हैं क्या वो उसके अंदर बाहर निकलने की टेंडेंसी है क्या। तो ये आप क्लिक देख रहे हैं, जब मैं इस हिप को पुश कर रहा हूं तो ये बाहर निकल रहा है। और इसका सेकंड पोर्शन जो है वो ओर्टिलानी है कि जब मैं हिप को अंदर डालूं। मैं ओर्टिलानी टेस्ट आपको दोबारा भी करके दिखा रहा हूं, ठीक है। आप चाहते हैं तो मैं एक बार इसको फिर से चला के दिखा देता हूं। देखिए, ये धक्का दिया, कूला बाहर आ गया, देखिए। ठीक है, तो ये कूले को हमको नजर में रखना पड़ेगा और इसका इलाज करना पड़ेगा। ये दूसरा टेस्ट है। देखिए, आप इसको ध्यान से देखिए। ठीक है, मैं दोबारा चला रहा हूं, देखिए। देखिए, ये कूला बाहर निकला हुआ था, मैंने यहाँ पे इनको टांगों को अलग किया और इस हाथ से कूले को अंदर चढ़ाने की कोशिश करी है। और जब चढ़ता है कूला तो एक सेंसेशन आती है, जैसे कि आपने पिछले वाले वीडियो में देखा था। ठीक है, ओर्टिलानी टेस्ट करने के लिए कूला पहले से बाहर होना चाहिए, तब ये टेस्ट पॉजिटिव आएगा। तीसरा टेस्ट है ये वाला। देखिए, ये टेलीस्कोपिंग टेस्ट है। ठीक है, ये 2 तरीके से दिखाया गया है। देखिए, बच्चे की कूले को आपको पकड़ना पड़ेगा यहाँ पे और एक हाथ आपको यहाँ पे रखना पड़ेगा। मैं फिर से चला रहा हूं, ठीक है। देखिए, तो ये आपको, क्योंकि कूला अंदर सॉकेट में नहीं है, इसलिए आपको ये बाहर आपको सॉफ्ट फीलिंग आ रही है। अगर अगर आप एक चीज ध्यान से देखना चाहेंगे तो देखिए, इन सब बच्चों के अंदर एक चीज आपको देखने के लिए मिलेगी, जो मैंने आपको एक रिस्क फैक्टर बताया था। ठीक है, हालांकि मैं इस चीज को हाईलाइट नहीं करना चाह रहा था, लेकिन ठीक है। तो आपको ये वीडियो मैंने दिखा दिए हैं, अब आप अपने सवाल पूछ सकते हैं।
सर, हमारी एमएसटीज की तरफ से एक क्वेश्चन है आपके लिए। अगर आप फील्ड के अंदर हम डीडीएच को कैसे डायग्नोस कर सकते हैं, उसको का साइनॉप्सिस एक बार बता रिपीट कर पाए उन सबके लिए तो प्लीज।
8 हफ्ते के अंदर। मैम, किस समय के अंदर?
सर, हमारी एमएसटी जब फील्ड में जाती हैं, उनके डीडीएच को डिटेक्ट करने के लिए क्या क्या चीजें ध्यान रखनी चाहिए, ये एक बार आप अगर रिपीट कर देंगे उनके लिए।
ठीक है, मैं बताना चाहूंगा। देखिए, ऐसा है, आप फील्ड में जा रहे हैं तो मैं ये मान के चलता हूं कि आप ज्यादातर कम उम्र वाले बच्चे ही देखेंगे और जो बच्चे अभी तक चलना शुरू नहीं करे हैं। ठीक है, तो 6 महीने तक देखिए, हम लोग ये मान के चल रहे हैं कि 6 महीने तक का बच्चा आप देखेंगे। तो 6 महीने के बच्चे के अंदर जो क्लिनिकल टेस्ट हैं वो जो पॉजिटिव होंगे, आप बच्चे के पैर को मोड़ के देखिए, 90 डिग्री पे मोड़ के देखिए, ठीक है, और उनकी हाइट देखने की कोशिश करिए। अगर दोनों जो घु- घुटने, जो आपका नी लेवल है वो बराबर नहीं है, तो पहली शंका वहां पे शुरू होती है। दूसरा चीज है कि कूलों को आप 90 डिग्री पे मोड़ के और टांगों को चौड़ा करने की कोशिश करें, ठीक है। अगर टांगे पूरी तरीके से दोनों तरफ बराबर चौड़ी नहीं होती हैं तो ये एक और शंका का विषय है, ठीक है। अगर आपको ये दोनों चीजें मिल रही हैं और साथ में आप ये भी पूछे माता पिता से कि क्या ये बच्चा उल्टा पैदा हुआ था, एक, क्या इस बच्चे का पहले आपने कभी दिखाया है, या माता पहले, इससे पहले बच्चे के कूल्हे में दिक्कत थी या माता पिता की दिक्कत थी, दो, ठीक है। तीसरी चीज, क्या रिस्क फैक्टर्स आपको मैंने बताए थे, ठीक है, क्या ये लड़की है, ठीक है। और चौथा पॉइंट जो था वो भी मैं आपको अब फिर से दिखा देता हूं आपको। एक मिनट रुके आप। ठीक है मैम, आप चाहते हैं मैं दोबारा स्क्रीन शेयर करके दिखाऊं चारों पॉइंट्स?
सर आप दिखा दीजिए, और हम मिक्स लैंग्वेज यूज कर सकते हैं, हिंदी एंड इंग्लिश दोनों, ताकि सबको क्लियर हो जाए।
ठीक है।
थैंक यू सर।
क्या मेरा स्क्रीन विजिबल है मैम?
हाँ जी सर।
ठीक है, तो मैंने आपको ये बात बताई थी कि क्या चीज है जो हमें शक पैदा करती है कि, तो अब अगर आप फील्ड में जा रहे हैं तो ये पूछिए क्या माता पिता के या किसी पहले बच्चे के डीडीएच था, क्या बच्चा उल्टा पैदा हुआ था, क्या उस परिवार के अंदर पैर को बांधने की प्रैक्टिस है, ठीक है, और क्या पहले किसी ने बताया है कि इस बच्चे का कूल्हा ढीला हो सकता है। तो ये चार ही पॉइंट ऐसे हैं जिनको की सिग्निफिकेंट माना गया है। और ये भी देखिए, ये मैंने आपको बताने की कोशिश की थी, ये देखिए, सॉरी, एक, ये देखिए जांग के, ये देखिए इनमें से इस पोजीशन में पैर को रखना है। कूला 90 डिग्री पे है, आपका घुटने के पास भी कूला 90 डिग्री तक, इस तरीके से अगर आप पैर को चौड़ा करते हैं तो ये पैर आपका कम खुलता है, ठीक है। इसको लिमिटेड हिप अबडक्शन भी कहा जाता है। दूसरा जो साइन है वो ये है, जिसमें आप पैर को 90 डिग्री पे ऐसे मोड़ लेते हैं तो ये आपको पैर कम ऊंचा नजर आएगा, दूसरा पैर ऊंचा ज्यादा नजर आएगा। इसको आप साइड से भी देख सकते हैं और आप ऊपर से भी देख सकते हैं। तो ये मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि ये दो पॉइंट्स आपको हर उम्र में मिलते हैं, ठीक है, और आप इनको देख सकते हैं। ओटिलानी और बार्लोव आपको थोड़े सीखने पड़ेंगे, उसके बाद आप उनको भी कर सकते हैं। जब बच्चा चलने लग जाएगा तब उसका पैर छोटा और आपको गेट में एबनॉर्मलिटीज भी नजर आने लग जाएंगी। मैम आप अगला क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं।
सर नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है, इज देयर अ एज लिमिट फॉर सर्जरी?
ज्यादातर 12, हालांकि कोई एज लिमिट नहीं है, लेकिन 12 साल की उम्र के बाद हम लोग ज्यादातर कूल्हे का ऑपरेशन नहीं करना चाहते हैं, क्योंकि तब तक बच्चा उसके लिए, उस पार्टिकुलर पोस्चर के लिए और अपने रूटीन से इतना एडजस्ट हो जाता है कि उस वो करवाने नहीं चाहता, और दूसरा उस एज ग्रुप के अंदर कूल्हे के सही बैठने की संभावना बहुत कम हो जाती है। तो इससे बियॉन्ड, मैंने जो सबसे बड़ा बच्चा किया हुआ है वो 11 साल का किया हुआ है।
Sir, can you just repeat that in English also for some of our friends who don't understand Hindi?
Okay. There is no described age in literature for the operative treatment of DDH. Okay, but when the hip is out, it becomes abnormal in shape, and then to put it into a acetabulum, there will be a mismatch between the acetabulum in the head, and it will lead to irregularities and pain. So the oldest age group in which I have operated a child is 11 years. Beyond that, I do not recommend operative reduction of the DDH in late presenting cases.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, another question that we have got is floppiness of lower limb same as DDH? Can you please explain the difference between both of them in English and Hindi for our audience?
Okay. Floppiness, DDS doesn't have a feature of floppiness. Okay. Instead, when you do in a floppiness, you will be able to abduct both the hips equally because the child ligaments are loose. Okay. So, but in DDH, the ligaments are not loose. The joint is not contained and so the abduction is limited. हिंदी में बताने के लिए ढीलापन, शरीर का ढीलापन में शरीर के हर हिस्से के अंदर ढीलापन होगा। अगर आप हाथ को ऊपर से भी देखेंगे तो आप अंगूठे को पीछे ले जा पाएंगे, आपकी बाजू पीछे चली जाएगी, आपका घुटना भी पीछे से ज्यादा मुड़ेगा, आपका पैर भी लचीला होगा और वो शरीर के हर हिस्से में प्रेजेंट होगा। जबकि डीडीएच एक लिमिटेड बीमारी है कूल्हे की। ठीक है। फ्लॉपीनेस और डीडीएच दोनों एक जैसी चीज, एक मायने नहीं रखते हैं, बल्कि ढीले शरीर के अंदर डीडीएच का होना उतना, मतलब दोनों कूल्हे बाहर हो सकते हैं लेकिन दोनों चीजें जुड़ी हुई नहीं है।
सर, आप थोड़ा सा क्या इसके फर्दर मैनेजमेंट में पोस्ट हार्नेस और हमारा फिजियोथेरेपी का कोई रोल है इसके अंदर? अगर कुछ है तो प्लीज आप एक्सप्लेन करें बोथ इन हिंदी एंड इंग्लिश।
ठीक है, देखिए पहले हिंदी में बताता हूँ। अगर आपका कूल्हा सही समय पे ये पता चल गया है कि वो बाहर निकला हुआ है और आपने उसका इलाज कर दिया है हार्नेस लगा के, तो हमारे को सिर्फ ये देखना होता है कि देखिए आपने कोई चीज बाहर निकली हुई थी, अगर शरीर से बन के आई है, भगवान से बन के आई है, तो उसकी छत अच्छी होती है, कूल्हे की छत होती है। जब आप डालते हैं तो छत को बनने में समय लगता है। हमें एक बारी डालने के बाद हमारे को बच्चे को समय समय पे, यानी 6 महीने के अंतराल पे या 3 महीने के अंतराल पे ये देखना पड़ता है कि क्या उसकी छत अच्छी बन रही है। एक बार अगर छत अच्छी बन जाती है और कूल्हा अंदर बन जाता है तो ज्यादातर बहुत फ्रीक्वेंटली बच्चे को बुलाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है और आप उसको 1 साल के अंदर या 2 साल में एक बार देख सकते हैं। ठीक है, एक बार तब देखना जरूरी होता है जब बच्चा चलना शुरू होता है। ठीक है, पर बहुत फ्रीक्वेंटली आपको 3 महीने से पहले देखने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, एक बार आपने कंफर्म कर लिया है कि कूल्हा अंदर आ गया। ठीक है, कोई तरह का रिहैबिलिटेशन नहीं चाहिए होता है क्योंकि आपने कूल्हे को बांधा नहीं, तो कूल्हे की चाल कभी भी खत्म नहीं हुई। कोई आपने उसको स्पाइका या प्लास्टर नहीं लगाया है तो उस कूल्हे की चाल कभी भी खत्म नहीं हुई है, तो आपको अलग से रिहैबिलिटेशन या फिजियोथेरेपी की जरूरत नहीं होती है। ठीक है, इंग्लिश में बताने के लिए, if you have detected the child before 6 months of age and you have completed the treatment with a harness, okay, the follow-up are required usually at 3 months interval and at least once when the child is walking age. It is necessary because the acetabular development takes some time beyond the treatment age for development, but and the child needs to be seen once in say 3 months initially and later at 6 months to see that the normal acetabular development is going on perfectly. When the child is treated in a harness, usually there is no immobilization, so no specific physiotherapy or rehabilitation program is required.
Thank you, sir. Sir, another question for you. Is there any relationship between DDH and children sitting in W pattern?
No. In fact, W pattern, if possible, basically says that DDH is not there because W pattern requires abducting the hip wide, and if the hip are kept wide apart, there is less possibility that the child will be having a DDH.
Okay.
हिंदी में बताने के लिए, डब्लू पोस्चर के अंदर आप दोनों कूल्हों को अलग करके बैठते हैं और ये तभी संभव हो पाता है जब कूल्हे अंदर हो। तो इस चीज की संभावना कम रहती है कि अगर बच्चा डब्लू पोस्चर में बैठ रहा है तो उसके डीडीएच होगा।
Sir, last but not the least, can we just summarize the webinar by giving some preventive measures that our teams can take forward in the field when they go?
Preventive measures, ma'am?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So DDH is not entirely preventable. Okay, it is a birth defect. Okay, so what we need to do is that what we can prevent is that the child is having a dysplasia of the hip, and if the child is not properly taken care of, he will later have a completely dislocated hip. So if the child is having a dysplasia, basically when you keep the limbs apart, there is a chance that the hip gets reduced and develops normally. So anything which keeps the hip apart is advisable. Don't tie the legs together. Okay, try to keep the limbs apart. And why do, जब आप मालिश करते हैं तब टांगों को चौड़ा करके मालिश करें, ठीक है, उनको समेट के मालिश नहीं करें, ठीक है। अगर आपको बच्चे को पकड़ना है तो आपको दो मेथड हमने आपको दिखाए। अगर आप आगे से पकड़ते हैं तो कोशिश करें कि टांग माँ के या पिताजी के दोनों तरफ जाए, उनको भींच के, टांगों को, जांघों को भींच के कभी भी बच्चे को खड़ा नहीं करें अगर आपको शक है, ठीक है। एक अच्छा कूल्हे में कुछ नहीं बिगड़ेगा, अगर कूल्हा अच्छे से अंदर है तो किसी भी प्रैक्टिस से नहीं बिगड़ेगा, ठीक है, आप ये चीजें कर सकते हैं। लेकिन अगर बच्चा डीडीएच के साथ है या उसमें प्रॉब्लम है तो इन चीजों से कूल्हा बाहर आने की संभावना बनी रहती है। तो इसलिए ये एडवाइजेबल है कि अगर आपको ये रिस्क फैक्टर प्रेजेंट है या आपको लग रहा है कि आपके बच्चे के डीडीएच हो सकता है, तो आप ये बच्चे को ठीक से कपड़े में लपेटें, टांगों को चौड़ा रखें, मालिश के समय टांगों को चौड़ा करके मालिश करें, यही कह सकते हैं। और अगर आपको शक हो तो सलाह जरूर लें।
Thank you so much, sir. I hope all our participants have enjoyed today's session. और सबके लिए informative था. We all are learning new things. Thank you so much, sir. And I hope to see all our RBSK MHTs and DIC staff members who have joined us next week again when we do 2 webinars. Thank you so much, sir, from the RBSK team for taking your time out for this important cause. Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you everyone for participating and listening.
Thank you, sir.
Deepti, you want to close this session? Sir, you want to close this session now, end the session now?
Yes, ma'am.